Are you thinking about moving to Quincy, Massachusetts? Well, let me tell you something. I might have a few ideas about why it's great to live in Quincy, Massachusetts. You ask why? Because when I was going to Suffolk University in Boston, Quincy was where I lived, and I had my first apartment there in 1993. I took the T to school every day, and then when I got together with my husband, we bought a house in Quincy, our first house in 1997. We lived there until 2003, where we moved further down into the South Shore. And now we're back living in Milton, which is right next door. So here's the thing. I know a lot about Quincy, Massachusetts. And in this video, I'm going to tell you everything there is for you to know if you're thinking about moving to Quincy. Hi, I'm Katie Norton, and I'm a realtor in Massachusetts. And this channel is all about everything you need to know about living in Boston or on the South Shore of Massachusetts. Subscribe if you haven't, and if you're thinking about moving to Boston or anywhere on the South Shore, give me a call. I'd love to talk, and I'd love to give you my expertise on everything that the South Shore has to offer. So let's start with the most obvious. First of all, I called it Quincy, Massachusetts. Phonetically, it looks like it should be Quinky or Quincy, and it's not. So if you're moving to Quincy, make sure you say you're from Quincy once you live here, or else everyone will know that you're an out-of-towner. So Quincy is a city located south of Boston. City, south of the city. We have a population of 102,000 people in Quincy. As you can see on this map, Quincy is located about 20 minutes south of Boston. It's actually its own city and has a population of about 102,000 people. So one of the best things about Quincy, it is really a commuter's dream. I say this because one of the easiest ways to get around Quincy is by taking the Red Line. That's what we call it here in Boston, the Red Line. It's basically our subway system. And the Red Line starts in Quincy and goes all the way to Cambridge, maybe to Harvard. But most of the time, people coming from Quincy are heading right to Boston, and it's about a 15-minute train ride. In fact, this is the same train that I took every day coming into Boston to finish up my studies at Suffolk. The reason a commuter's dream is because there's more one way to access the city. So if you live in Quincy, aside from taking the T every day, you could also drive your car in. If you wanted to do that, it really just depends on what side of Quincy you live on. If you live obviously closer to Boston, it's going to be about a 20-minute drive. And if you live a little further down the coast, it's going to be about a 30 or 40-minute drive depending on traffic. Still a very doable commute. Okay, so the easiest way for me to explain Quincy, because it's such a large town with so many different areas, it varies so widely. So let's start by just saying, hey, we're driving home from Boston, and we drive over the Neponset River Bridge, and that ends us right up in North Quincy. There's a lot of different areas of North Quincy. This is really the beginning of Hancock Street. Hancock Street is going to run all the way through Quincy, all the way through Quincy Center, all the way down, following that same track as the T, and it ends at the Quincy Adams T station. But let's go back up to North Quincy for a second and talk a little bit about the shoreline of Quincy. When you first enter North Quincy and you go to the east, you're going to head towards Marina Bay and Squantum. Marina Bay and Squantum are such special areas of Quincy. They really do give you that shore living, but in a city, within a city. Marina Bay really represents a lot of retail and restaurants in the area. In fact, back in the 90s, I worked at the most popular restaurant in Marina Bay. It was called The Tent. For anyone who, I don't even know if you could look that up on the internet, if it even existed. I used to work there with a bunch of friends. We had some of our best times in Marina Bay, and now Marina Bay has been elevated even further with about 7 or 8 different restaurants, lots of luxury condos and townhomes. There's a lot of retail in there as well. So it's just this cute little area of Quincy. It's really destinational. When my husband and I want to go into Marina Bay for dinner, we head over to the Real House, which is this great restaurant that has 3 locations in Boston, one in the Seaport and one in East Boston. But the easiest one for us is to head over to Marina Bay. If you're playing or working in Marina Bay, but you don't want to live here as well, you might head over to Squantum. Squantum is a very densely populated area of Quincy, right on the shore. So if you live in Squantum and you just walk outside your door, within a few minutes, you are right at the ocean, and it's just really special. Once you leave Squantum and Marina Bay, you can head over to Wollaston Beach. Wollaston Beach is south of of Marina Bay, and it's about a 3-mile stretch of public beach. It is beautiful, and any given day you're going to find people walking their strollers, you're going to find people rollerblading, you're going to have couples just sitting outside having just, sitting on a bench talking. You are going to have those same people every single day who show up to that same bench and just talk to anyone who will listen. That is the beauty of Quincy. It is so many different types of people. So you head down 3A, and that is Wollaston Beach, and that's going to bring you into, like I said, that Quincy Adams area. And if you kept going on 3A, that's going to bring you into Weymouth and then Hingham and so on and so forth. 3A is a stretch from Boston right through Quincy. Let's talk a little bit more about Hancock Street. This is really the heart and soul of the retail and restaurant industry. This is a stretch from North Quincy all the way down to South Quincy and then into Braintree. Hancock Street represents hundreds and hundreds of restaurants, retail spaces, even Stop and Shop headquarters. Their corporate headquarters is located right on Hancock Street. You can find anything from a party supply store to a wedding dress venue place. You could find exercise shops. My friend actually owns the OTFQ, which is the Orange Theory Fitness in Quincy. So that's a great place to go work out. There's a few other restaurants that I'd love to tell you about, but our favorite one is definitely the Fours. The Fours is a Boston sports bar institution. Started in Boston, right by the Garden, and then they expanded and put locations in Quincy and Norwell. We just have such a huge population of Boston sports fans on the South Shore that they had to put 2 locations. We go to the one in Quincy because it's closest to Milton and it's easy for us. It has got everything that every sports lover is gonna, find. So even when my kids were really little, my husband and I would love to take them there and watch games. And now that they're adults, we still go there because now the food and the games and the drink draw us all in. So if you're in Quincy Center and you keep heading south, and again, just following that T line or following Hancock Street, you're gonna end up at the Quincy Adams T station. And the unique part about the area known as the Quincy Adams area is it's a little bit more industrial than Quincy Center. Whereas Quincy Center, as I said, has those restaurants in retail. Quincy Adams is going to be more your larger box stores. You're going to find a BJ's there. You're going to find a Home Depot there. You're going to find, as I said, the T-Stop. There's a lot of medical buildings. Actually, there's an industrial park up in the Quincy Adams area, and there's a Boston Marriott hotel and a bunch of medical buildings. A lot of people use this as like a satellite location for their Boston doctor's offices. They'll come down to Quincy, sort of halfway further down on the South Shore and coming all the way into Boston. The Quincy Adams area is known as more of an industrial area. You might recognize the Quincy Adams name because one of our most famous residents was John Adams, whose son was John Quincy Adams. John Adams, as you know, president, was born and raised in Quincy, and he then got married and raised his family on Adams Street in Quincy. He lived there until his death on July 4th when he was 90 years old. So we have quite a bit of rich history from that time of the early beginning of the United States. And so we're really proud of that. In fact, the Adams home on Adams Street in Quincy is still a place where people will go for field trips when they're growing up around Boston, and they'll come here maybe when they get a little bit older and they move back home, they want to revisit those roots. So it's a really special place. So we've covered the rich history, we've covered the restaurants, we've covered the retail, and now I'm going to just give you a few other things that people who live in Quincy like to do. One of our favorite go-to places is called Granite Links. It's actually a golf club, but it's not necessarily a private golf club. It's more of a social place to go. You can golf, you can go to the driving range. There are plenty of golf tournaments that happen there, but the biggest thing they do there are weddings and events. They have a beautiful, beautiful building, clubhouse, and then they have a tent that they set up in the summer and the fall outside. Either of these places is going to be your go-to place if you don't want to have your events in Boston and you want to be a little bit closer to the South Shore. Coolest part about the clubhouse and the tent is they both have the most spectacular views of the Boston skyline. And when that sun is setting to the west and you are just staring at the Boston skyline, it really is something special. I've been to a few weddings, I've been to a few charity fundraisers, and I've been to a few golf tournaments, all at the same place at Granite Links over the years. Let's see, a few other things. It's still close enough to Blue Hills Reservation. In my Milton video, I talked a lot about the Blue Hills Reservation and the hiking trails and the little bit of skiing that you can do there, and also the nature reserve. Quincy is so close to the Blue Hills that that's definitely a go-to place for things to do. We also have the Quarry Reservation, which used to be a go-to place in Quincy, but they've drained the quarries and they have actually turned that whole area into a baseball field and a softball field, really being used beautifully. I always say, like, it's great to see our Quincy tax dollars at work doing these things for the community. That's a great place to go if your kids are into sports. Speaking of community events, if you live in Quincy, be sure not to miss the Quincy Christmas Festival and Parade. Usually happens the weekend after Thanksgiving, and it's a great community bonding opportunity. So you get to come out and meet a bunch of neighbors, meet a bunch of friends. There's activities for all the kids, and of course, Santa Claus comes at the end. So it's a really special thing. You could see all ages there. You could see everyone from toddlers all the way up to the grandparents, or just seniors who decided to come out and share in the community bonding. As I mentioned before, Quincy is known as the city of presidents. Well, I may not have mentioned it, but there have been a lot of presidents who have been born and raised in Quincy. And so we consider ourselves the city of presidents. And for that reason, we definitely treat President's Day very specially, and they have a lot of dedications, community events surrounding that holiday. And of course, who could forget July 4th? We have a huge celebration for July 4th that mimics the Boston celebration. There's fireworks, there's parades. As I said, Quincy is a city just south of the city, so they treat it as their own place. You don't have to leave Quincy to go have, these city celebrations. So for that reason, Quincy is a wonderful place to live. So now, if you're living in Quincy, Massachusetts, you might want to know a little bit more about the public school system. According to niche.com, Quincy has an A- for an overall grade for the public school system. This public school system is made up of 13 elementary schools. I'm not going to go into every single one, but just like the different areas of Quincy, each public elementary school is similar to the area in which you're living. So you're going to be walking to school in some cases with your neighbors. There's bus transportation, but it becomes like little diverse communities at each public school. All of those public schools lead up into middle schools, and then those lead up into the 2 high schools that are actually both renovated but built from the ground up. Those 13 elementary schools are going to lead into middle school, and then the 2 brand new high schools. One is North Quincy High School and the other is Quincy High School. Now again, I go back to your tax dollars are at work, because the Quincy High School was just recently rebuilt, and it is a beautiful addition to the public school system in Quincy. As I talk about in some of my other videos, any of the towns on the South Shore have access to some beautiful private schools if that's your choice. If that's your choice, I'd love to tell you more about all of them, but just very quickly, easy schools to get to from Quincy would be BC High, because you can take the T. It would be Thayer Academy, because it's just in Braintree. Again, take the T or a quick drive. And then also Notre Dame Academy down in Hingham, which is an all-girls school, but again, easy enough to get to through public transportation or just a quick drive. These are just some of the private high schools that surround Quincy. So reach out if you have any other questions about the private school system on the South Shore. Myself, along with many of my friends, have done extensive research on all these different private schools. And the truth is, we all choose them for different reasons. So I'd love to share some more information about all the different private schools on the South Shore. So if that's the case, then reach out to me anytime. Now let's talk about real estate in Quincy, Massachusetts. According to Zillow.com, average home price in Quincy is $649,000. Just as I've mentioned before, all the different areas of Quincy represent different styles of housing and different price points. It's really going to come down to what you're looking for. Are you looking to live in a luxury home on the waterfront? Are you looking for more of a historical home on Adams Street? Are you that first-time homebuyer who's looking for a townhouse or a condo right in the center of it all? There's also income-producing opportunities. Please reach out for more information, because there is so many different ways you could look at the Quincy real estate, and I just don't think there's enough time in this video to talk about it all. So if you're thinking about moving to Quincy, or any of the South Shore areas for that matter, please just give me a call. I'd really love to help. I'd love to share my expertise. And the thing about me is that expertise is real. I lived here in Quincy. I bought my first house. We were first-time home buyers in Quincy. And at the time, the rates were insane. People think rates are high now. Rates back then were in the 18%. And so when we bought our first house, house. We actually made it an income producing house so that we could afford and gain equity. So I have knowledge on that first time home buyer situation, and Quincy has a lot of places like that to offer. But I've also helped friends buy houses here. I actually have one friend who built a brand new beautiful house back in 1997, and she has raised her family here and lived here for almost 3 decades. She's just sat on that same house, and that value has increased astronomically. And now she is sitting on, fully paid, beautiful home. Whereas I did it differently. I moved from house to house and used that equity to build and add to the next house. So for each house, we were able to get a little bit more of what we wanted. It doesn't happen easy, but you have to know the area you're looking at and what that area has to offer and why that would work for you. So again, if you're looking at Boston or the South Shore, please give me a call. I would love to help. I hope this video was helpful. Subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you in the next video.